Hey everyone, I'm Liz with Austin Edible Gardens, and I'm in my backyard garden today to finally install some drip irrigation. And I'm gonna kind of learn as I go, and I'll show you what I'm doing. I've done a little bit of irrigation patchwork and stuff like that, but this is my first real setup that I've done. So I thought I would share it with you and we can learn together. The first thing that I'm going to talk about is the adapters that go on the faucet. So we're going to connect this straight to our faucet that comes off the house. The first thing I'm going to put on is a backflow preventer. This will just protect the water inside the house, won't let any contaminants get back up into our water system. And then this system has a filter, a 10 psi pressure regulator, and a hose connector here. So I'm going to install this over on the faucet now. Step one. That's the backflow preventer on the faucet, and then we're going to connect the filter and the pressure regulator. The pressure regulator will help the water move more slowly out into the beds. This is a 10 psi. It's a good amount for the small raised beds that we're doing. And then we have already installed the 1/2-inch tubing, the main line, underneath the walkway up into the beds. And so I'm going to attach this, and then I'll give you a tour of how we laid out the main line. So this is just going to go on to the end here. I have to pull it up. And this is an interlocking system, so I'm going to get it on as high as I can up into the male part, and then I'm going to screw this interlocking piece down, and that will keep it nice and tight. Okay, so this is all ready to go. If I want to use my overhead hose, just my garden hose, I can now put this on this side too. So I have hose if I want to water by hand, like if I'm planting seeds and they need a little more water than just the drip line we're putting in, I can use this. Okay, we have all the fittings on the faucet, and I've already laid out the 1/2-inch main line that's going to run to all of our beds. So let me show you how I did that, and then I'll give you a demonstration of how to connect the fittings. So this is coming off of the pressure regulator. I've put an elbow in here so I can start to run it along the ground. These are called T's, and this allows me to send water in that direction as well as this direction. So that is going out to the two beds in the front, and then this one is going to come around to the back of this bed. And I also want to run it up to some more raised beds one level higher. So I'll show you how I do that. I put in elbow here at the turn, and now I need to connect a tube that's going to go up into this bed with a tube that's going to go back into more beds behind me. So I'm going to use a T at this point, and this is called a T, looks like a T, has interlocking ends, and one end is going to go here, and we'll tighten it down. The other end is going to go up this way. Tighten it down. And now I'm going to show you, step 3, how to put the drip tape off of this 1/2-inch main line. This still has no water coming out of this main line. It's all solid. And then this is the tubing that's going to run back to the bed behind me. So this one goes on here and lock down. Okay. And this is all going to get buried, so it'll be level. Okay, I am at the end of where the half-inch tubing is going to meet this bed that I also want to add the drip line to. So I'm going to show you what to do when you want to add on to another bed. I'm going to cut it down here, and we're going to add an elbow so it makes a 90-degree turn and goes up. So I'm going to cut it about here. When you're using the interlocking fittings, they're just hand tightened down. You don't have to really crank them down. This is really low pressure, so they're not going to get blasted off by a lot of water. So I've got it on there snug, and then just going to tighten it down. Now I want to run it up this wall. So continue with my tubing. You can use your landscape fabric stakes to hold it down. Okay, now I need to make another bend here. So we get another elbow to go over the lip of the bed. I'm going to add more of the half-inch tubing, almost getting to the drip tape. Got to set up this whole system first. All right, now I'm in the bed. I'm actually going to run another elbow this way so I can start my half-inch tubing all the way at the end of the bed. Okay, we have all of the main line put in. You can see it behind me here, coming off of the faucet. We have it into this bed here, running up into the bed that I'm sitting on here. This line that's on the ground, we're going to bury afterwards. There's not a lot of foot traffic over here. We're just going to bury it about 4 inches just to cover it up. But it is now time to put on the drip tape. And this has emitter holes already punched into the tape every 6 inches. There's lots of different types of drip tape or 1/4-inch soaker hose you could use. I just went with this because it comes in 100-foot rolls, and I can roll it out and cut it to the length I need and just continue building with this. So this is what I'm going to use. You can see that this line of the half-inch tubing ends here, so we put a cap on that end there. Now I'm going to punch my holes into the main line so I can put the drip tape on it. I wanted to show you that I'm just using my hand pruners to cut the tubing. These work great. You can use box cutters. Sometimes sometimes you can get tools like this that are specifically for irrigation, or you can just use your hand pruners. So I want to space the drip tape about 12 inches. These beds are really small, so I'm going to just kind of eyeball it in the middle of my bed. I'm going to have 2 runs here so that I can get water to plants about 5 inches that way, 5 inches this way, and on the other side. I have my hole punch, and I am going to start one drip tape about 6 inches in. So I'm going to put a punch here, and I'm going to go about 12 inches away. Now I have these little fittings. The adapter is going to go into the hole I just punched, and then the drip tape is going to fit on the other end. It's best if you can do this before your garden is planted. This is a great bed to show you on because there's not a lot of plants in here, but you probably noticed that the other beds I was working in already had a lot of plantings in it. So lesson learned, to set up your irrigation before you get your beds all planted. Something else I learned is that it's nice to have 2 people to help, wrangle the drip line hose and to kind of help measure and cut. Some adapters are easier to work with than others, or fittings. I'm sorry, these fittings here are compression fittings, and the hose is actually really hard to get into the hole for it to fit. Those interlocking fittings were way easier to use for me, so I would go with those if you can find them. Okay, now I'm going to attach the drip tape. I'm just going to put it on the end there, and then this is the interlocking piece here. These are going to lay on top of the soil. We don't bury these. The drip tape allows the water to get right to the plant's roots, so we're not watering the leaves by overhead watering. It reduces evaporation, so we're saving water. Lots of good reasons to use the drip tape. I'm going to stake all my tubing down now. One thing else I might do differently is if I were starting the garden from scratch, I would lay out my irrigation first and probably run the tubing up on the inside of the beds. It's just going to look a little bit nicer than having it sitting on the outside of all the beds. But this is going to be just fine. You can kind of poke these down, keep those at the soil level. And then the last step is to put caps on the drip tape. Last step, we're going to cap our ends to keep the water from flowing. We have a couple options. It's like a little figure 8 that you can just thread on and double back, and it kinks and stops the water. Zip ties kind of do the same thing. Don't have any of these fittings. So that's going to lay in there. Actually want to make it a little bit shorter. Okay, I like that better. And then this is just a plug, an interlocking plug. This one could go on here, but I need to make that one a little bit shorter. I'm going to turn on the water now and we'll check and see if we have any leaks or if everything is looking good. All right, let's go check out the drip tape. Let's see. So, feel pressure. I see it's dripping there. I think all of our drip tape is working. Because there are a few things planted here, I'm going to move the tape over a little bit so that the hole is right at the base of this cucumber plant. And then when I plant again, I can use the holes as a guide on where to plant things. So they're 6 inches apart. The idea is that the water will spread out and cover the entire length of the drip tape, but I do try to plant like right where the water is coming out of the tape. Thanks. Happy gardening.